Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here and I'm really happy to see you. And as you can tell, we have fabric scraps, so it's that time. Once again, we're going to be putting these together in order to make something interesting, something fun, and very important, something wearable. Now today's project is actually per my husband's request. He's been asking me this for years and years now, and I actually started this project quite some time ago. It's just a little bit labor intensive, so I kept putting it off, but right now I'm thinking, you know what, let's just get this done. So he has these wonderful shorts that he's been wearing for, I don't know, over 10 years maybe even longer, and they've ripped like a dozen times and I've repaired them time and time again, but they're just way too old. But what he really loves about them is the technique of the little pieces of fabric being pieced together in one full yardage. The color scheme here is different. We're going for yellow, blue, and white, and I'm working with so far 5 different types of fabric scraps. They're all cotton, they're all shirting. I might need to add a couple of more fabrics to it because I'm just not sure if I have enough, but we'll see in the process. But I'm trying to embrace maybe not exactly the same technique as the original shorts were made out of, but something similar. I'm thinking I'm going to cut squares that are going to be about 3 inches and a quarter on each side, and I think that is going to be an optimal size for the little squares that I'm going to be piecing together. And a fun fact, all of these are offcuts from previous projects. So this one was actually from an upcycle from my husband's shirt that I remade to fit me. So this is the blue and white stripe. The yellow one was also an offcut from my husband's shirt that I remade into shorts for me. Then this one was actually a shirt that I made for myself from scratch, and then I just ended up never wearing it. I'm not sure why. I think it's just the color scheme wasn't exactly right. So we have offcuts over here, but then we also have some dismantled pieces of that shirt because I did use it for a lot of different things already. And then we have this light blue piece over here that is an offcut from a little girl's dress that I made for Project Dresser Girl last year. So this doesn't really go well with other blues in this color scheme, but I'm thinking I can use it for pockets and the inside details. And of course we have a little bit of white, just plain cotton poplin that we can use for the inside details, bias tapes and whatnot. From here, I'm starting by choosing a pattern that is tried and true, something that I know fits really well and I don't have to adjust, especially when we're working with small and limited amounts of fabric. I drafted this pattern for my husband quite some time ago, and here are the shorts that I made from this pattern for him. And as you can see, they're quite straightforward. I might adjust a couple of things, like for example, on the back, they do have a dart, but here I might do an elasticated waistband in the back, so that is definitely something that I will play with. Next, I need to start by cutting the little squares and determine how many squares each pattern piece is going to take. I'm cutting my squares on both straight grain and cross grain, and for right now I'm holding on even to the tiniest little bits because I might need them later. I don't actually know if I'm going to have enough. With every single square cut, I'm like, this is not looking good. So who knows, maybe halfway through this is going to become some sort of different project. So we shall see, but for right now, I'm just gonna continue cutting the squares. I started by cutting just a small amount first to see how it all sort of plays out. And then I started placing them one next to another to see how this is going to come together. And by my calculations, each pattern piece, the front or the back, will take about 40 to 45 squares. With that in mind, I think, that's the key phrase over here, I think I will be able to make this work. It's going to be a little tight on fabric, but I think it's possible. The essence of this technique is pretty straightforward. We're starting by joining the squares together in one row. Once that is done, we'll continue making the rows and then joining the rows between each other. Seems like there's not much to it, right? Just little squares, put them together, and that's about it. But because I am working with, number one, limited amount of fabric scraps, and what I discovered from the original shorts is that this technique can be quite fragile if you don't actually reinforce it well, because it also becomes quite heavy because of all of those seams. So there's a little bit more to this technique and how I want to go about it than what meets the eye at first. So the original shorts that I'm using as an inspiration probably have ripped about a dozen times, I kid you not. So I've repaired them about a dozen times. I've even inserted an additional lining for that extra support while I do the repairs, because the fabric itself is really heavy, and basically it's ripping because of that weight, partially because of that. And another reason is because these are really old. So I do have a video where we worked on inserting a lining, but what's interesting here is that the construction of the little squares is quite different. You can see over here where the lining doesn't reach that each has been stitched first with a straight stitch and then finished with a serger. Then on the right side of the fabric, these have been top stitched with one row of straight stitches. But for the shorts that I'm working on, I will take a different approach. Now, first of all, this project involves a lot, like a ton of pressing. The seams between the squares are not pressed open, they're actually pressed together, all in one direction. The direction in which the seam allowances are pressed alternate between the rows. So for example, on this row, the seam allowances are looking to the right, but in this row, seam allowances are looking to the left. That's because when I go ahead and sew them together, it will create way less bulk and will allow me to nest those seam allowances. Since this is the edge, and for that I only need about half a square instead of a full square, so I try to use whatever little offcuts I have left instead of using a full square, because I'm keeping those for the main part of the project. So all of this is going to be tidy up in one of the next stages. Now, of course, I try to align and do everything as neatly as possible, but if something doesn't align just right, I actually don't stress about it, because my husband does like this sort of like slightly messy aesthetic of these kind of shorts and garments, so that will work out in my favor, because I also don't want it to look so precise that it actually looks like a quilt. So I think this is one of those projects where you can let go a little bit of that perfectionism and sort of just work on the project, and it's still going to come together really nicely. When all of the rows are connected, I have to press it once again, but this time the seams between the rows I'm going to press open. That's because in the next step, I'm going to line this entire thing with a really lightweight cotton voile and then top stitch all of the squares. And once again, I don't want any of the bulk in the fabric that I have created. Since the seam allowances are quite narrow, about 1/4 of an inch, then of course the top stitching is going to be very close to the seam. When done with all of the top stitching, this is what we're going to have on the right side of our project. And this is what we're going to have on the reverse. It does take quite a bit of time, but I do think that the final result is going to be worth it. Now it is time to actually cut the pattern pieces out. As you know, I draft my patterns without seam allowances, so when I'm cutting my fabric, that's when I add them. I also like to have these projects with a cut-on zipper fly, because it's not only so much easier to assemble, it is also way cleaner, especially when a lot of piecing is involved. Now, we will have a chance to talk about a zipper fly here in a little bit, but first we have to take care of the pockets. And let me tell you, my husband loves his pockets super deep, so please don't be alarmed by the size of the pocket bags that I'm cutting here. Next, I'm going to outline the area on the pocket bag that is going to be visible on the outside as my husband wears his shorts, because that is the area that I will need to complete in patchwork, which might prove to be a little bit difficult because I am starting to run low on the fabric scraps. Once that is done, I'm going to go back to the zipper fly area and I'm going to interface that. And here, while I do that, I want to say that if you've been shying away from doing a zipper fly, or perhaps it just never really worked out, or you're just really frustrated or intimidated by it, please don't be. I do have a really detailed tutorial that many people have used in order to achieve good result, and I will leave that for you in the description of this video, so that way you can start working on your zipper fly as well, because it will open a world of possibilities for you in terms of making shorts, skirts, pants, and more. When I'm done with both of the front pattern pieces, the left and the right side, of course it is time to move on to completing the back pattern pieces as well. Now, I must say that with the magic of video editing and speeding up the footage, it might seem like everything is coming together so quick and easy, but as always, please don't be fooled. Of course, it takes time. Not only cutting out the pieces and sewing them together, that actually did take a little while, but it's not like weeks and weeks and weeks, maybe just like weeks and weeks, but not like 10 weeks of putting this together. But of course, it all depends on the amount and how big is the garment, how long is the garment, and what you have in mind. But what made it a little bit more difficult for me is the fact that it's just not my style. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you will know that I do have a special series, which this video is part of it, which is titled Made from Scraps. And I do all sorts of garments made from scraps. And at this point, I think I have dozens and dozens of videos in that series. But this type of sort of like super patchworky garment style is really not my cup of tea. However, my husband and my daughter absolutely love this. So I think these shorts and that orange jacket that I made for my daughter is probably the closest when it comes to making super patchworky garments. I forgot to add that the orange jacket is actually made from knit fabric scraps, so it is a variation of the technique that we're doing today. So as always, I urge you to look beyond, and that's what I try to do as well, because it's good to challenge yourself, it's good to expand your skill set, it's good to try something new and to sort of nudge yourself maybe in a direction that I don't absolutely love, but my loved ones do, so I try to make something special for them. My daughter has loved wearing this jacket. It is holding up really well. So I'm happy that I'm doing these projects. It just might take a little bit longer than what usual project would. With that being said, once all of the pattern pieces have been constructed from the little squares, the difficult part is sort of behind us, so now we can start putting this all together. And sometimes I'm asked, why don't I just make a full yardage out of the fabric scraps and then cut the pattern pieces out? Well, that is definitely possible if you have a lot of fabric scraps, but if you're working with a limited amount, then you don't have that luxury of just sewing everything together into 1, 2, or 3 continuous yards. You really have to be very thoughtful about how you use your fabric scraps, because at this point, this is all I have left, and I still have a waistband to cut and belt loops to attach, as well as the back pockets. The waistband right now is looking all crazy patched together, but you know, that's the name of the game when you're working with fabric scraps. And I also decided to opt out of adding elastic to the back waistband, so we're just gonna do a regular straight waistband with belt loops. Members of the channel, definitely take full advantage of your members perks, because for a waistband like this, I actually do have a full members extra step-by-step tutorial on how to do that. Finish it with bias tape so that way everything is enclosed, nice and neat on the inside. Of course, we also have Members Extra Deep Dive for these shorts, as well as for the orange patchwork jacket, where we discuss alternative solutions, we talk about problem solving, I answer some of your questions, and we take an extra deep look on the insides of the garment. Now, these are also accompanied by the projects at the glance, which makes it real easy for you to navigate all of the tutorials that you need in order to complete a project like this, and you can use them for your future reference. And I know there's a lot, but I just want to make sure that you get the full benefit of your members perks. And just recently, I did a Members Extra book review of Patchwork the World Tour. So that is a beautiful book with so many examples of patchwork, quilt, applique, and everything that goes around that topic, gathered from different corners of the world, and the creativity is just amazing. So members, thank you so much for being part of this membership and for your support to this channel. And viewers and subscribers, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for keeping me company. And thank you for allowing me to share my sewing passion with you. I truly appreciate you. For the hem of these shorts, I knew right away that I wouldn't be doing the classic single fold or double fold hem, simply because of two reasons. Number one, I just didn't have enough fabric, and number two, it would be too thick. So instead, I opted for something similar to a wide bias tape. Of course, it finishes the raw edge, but it also gives a little bit more stability to the hem, so that way it hangs nicely. For the back pockets, I decided to go a simple patch pocket route. Now first, I did think that maybe I'll do a single welt pocket, or maybe I'll do a zipper pocket, but all of that adds a lot of bulk. And because I do already have here so many seams, I really wanted to avoid that. Plus, doing patch pocket gives me an opportunity to disguise these pockets in plain sight. Looking from the inside of these shorts, although these have been patched from over 100 little squares, they do look quite neat, don't they? Plus, they're way lighter than the original shorts that I had as an inspiration. So right now, let's take a look at the final result. What's the final verdict? And here I'm really happy to report that he likes them, which is like, whew, like a rock off my chest. I'm happy that this project is done and dusted. It was definitely an interesting experience, and although I did mention that this is not my cup of tea, I do think that they turned out to look quite fresh, and with a white polo shirt and maybe sneakers or Keds, these are going to look really nice, stylish, and modern. So now, after seeing these, my daughter has requested patchwork overalls, and I told her, honey, that is probably not happening anytime soon. If you want to see more creative made from scraps clothes, then click right over here. This is one of my favorite projects of all times, and I truly hope that you're going to enjoy it as well. Until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you soon. Bye!